You have to be really, really persistent in this career. You have to really keep pushing and really keep going. There's a lot of other people doing it, and they'll beat you in the race if you don't really run fast enough.
Beth, thank you so much for joining me. You do something which I have incredible great respect for at the highest level. You are a performer at a high level and an educator, because you've got some great students that are doing some fantastic things. Because as a performer, you're at the cutting edge of background vocals with some of the greatest artists that are out there today. This is exciting to find that balance. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. I'm so happy to be here.
Tell me about music. Music entering your life as a young child. What was it that brought you into singing? How'd you discover that?
It's the only thing I've ever done is sing. I was 5 and I was running around the house singing "The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow" because I was going to be Annie. And that's what it was at 5 years old. I just always sang. And I was lucky enough my parents were super supportive. My mom couldn't sing, but she loves to sing. So she was like, yes, Bethy, go sing. Yes, Bethy, go do this. I had total support from my folks, so I always did it. Did music in high school and then moved on to college, and I always had the opportunity to do what I loved. So.
Was there music in the family?
Everybody loves music. On my mom's dad, so my grandpa's side, they were in theater, like vaudeville theater, way before me. So I think it kind of passed down that way, because neither of my parents sing, but it got to me.
Somewhere in the DNA it was lined up.
Yeah, it was somewhere in there. Thank goodness.
How beautiful. So you're singing now, you're doing some of the theater stuff. Where'd that lead you to?
I mean, I just did all the singing I could in middle school and high school, and I had a chorus teacher. His name was Mr. Desiderio. He was young and he was a teacher, but he was also gigging on the side. And I was like, I want a gig. I was about 16. I was like, I want a gig. I want to make some money. And he was like, yeah. So he introduced me to some musician friends of his, and I auditioned for them, and I got in my first band. I was 16 and started gigging and working.
What kind of music?
Pop music. We were in restaurants and nightclubs and things like that. Just popular covers, and I loved it. It was the music I loved.
So you're singing now, you're working, you're making some money from it. This is kind of the beginning of your professional career.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because I remember, I probably shouldn't say the number, but I was making $50 a night. I was 16, and I was like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. I could have anything I want. $50 a night. But it was a great start because, I didn't want to get a job in the mall. I wanted to sing. Getting a gig like that was the greatest thing in the world. But
what a beautiful transition, because, understanding what you don't want to do sometimes is a real big, positive force to find out what you want to do.
Oh yeah, that just wasn't for me. I was like, I don't really want to do that. And I tried it. I came home from college one year, and didn't have a gig because I was gone for so long. And my mom was like, yeah, we can get you a temp job at the bank. And I lasted 3 days. I was driving back and forth in rush hour traffic, like an hour and a half there, and I was filing just like menial. After 3 days, I was like, yeah, I can't do this anymore, and I quit. So that was my only real job.
Were there any singers that you were listening to that you were being inspired by?
Oh my God, yes. The reason why I sing is Daryl Hall from Daryl Hall and John Oates. Yeah.
Why?
I fell in love with his voice. I fell in love with his style. There was a song at the time, probably like 1983, 84, called "One on One." That was a hit of theirs. And there was just something about that song that like awakened my senses musically, and I just bought every album that they had. Listen, I knew every word of every song that he sang. I probably still do. And that's why I sing, that's why I write songs. That's Daryl Hall was it.
How fantastic.
Yeah.
And did you ever get a chance to go to any of their concerts at all?
So I've gone to a bunch of them, and actually through the amazing industry that we're in, it turns out that the person who books them is the same person who books Barry Gibb, who I sing for.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, we can get you backstage. We can get you to meet him. And I said, no. I'll watch the show. I don't want to meet him. He said, why don't you want to meet him? I said, because if I meet him and it's not exactly how I picture it in my mind, I will be devastated and heartbroken. So I'm good. I'll just go and see the show.
And you never met him?
Never met him. Never had the opportunity, and just was like, no, thank you.
So you moved down to Miami.
Yeah.
You came down to Miami.
Yeah.
You like the warm weather?
Love the warm weather. Hate the cold.
Hate the cold. So you come down here. In Miami, what I'm so impressed with, Beth, is there are so many great musicians down here. This is a hotbed of talent. We're here in Criteria Studios. This room alone has got a history that is just dramatic as drama can be.
It's so amazing here. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you come down here, so how'd you start meeting people and making connections?
So I came down because I went to University of Miami, and that was really the start of everything. Because going to school, that was where I met so many musicians and the instructors. That's where I met Jon Secada, who I sang for off and on for 13 years as a background singer, recorded for him. Those were my first national recordings.
And how did that happen with Jon?
Jon was my teacher in a course at UM. And I got to know him, he got to know me, we became friendly. And then when he went out, he had not broken away, but he had sort of graduated from Gloria Estefan and done his own thing as an artist. And he needed a band, and he called me as one of the background singers.
Unbelievable.
Which was great. So that started me on touring.
Was that your first tour that you were doing?
My first tour, as a pro background singer.
How old were you at that time? Your 20s?
Yeah, early 20s.
Early 20s.
Probably 22, give or take.
Yeah.
It was last week.
So yeah, and I can see it does look like that, absolutely.
Right.
So here you are, you're doing this tour. What was it like to do that tour? People dream about doing these tours. What was that like to go out there with Jon?
It was like a dream.
Who was huge at the time too.
Well, it was amazing because the two singers, it was myself and my very best friend, Miriam. And we were singing together. So I had my best friend in the world out singing backgrounds with me. We were singing for Jon. The music was great. Jon is such an amazing singer. Yeah. And we were traveling on the road. It was the first time it took me to LA. And so the first time I went out to LA, I was this big important person because we went out to do The Tonight Show with Jay Leno at the time. I was in LA and I was like, oh, what are you doing here? Oh, I'm recording The Tonight Show with Jay Leno.
That's beautiful.
So it was a dream come true.
So here you are now. You're just out of school. You're doing this incredible tour. You're on the Leno Show.
Yeah.
I mean, what was going through your head at this time?
That I am the queen of the universe.
Unbelievable.
It was the best feeling in the world. I was so happy. I was doing what I wanted to do. Yeah. I was on TV. I was getting paid for it. It was a dream. Like my dream was coming true. That's what it feels like.
How beautiful. When you think about, there are so many young artists that watch these interviews, and when they hear this story, it's very real, it's very true, it can happen, and it will happen. I have the feeling
again right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, holy cow. Yeah.
So you're touring with Jon, so how long did that tour last?
I was with him off and on for 13 years.
Unbelievable.
So there were small tours, or there were what we call one-offs. We do a show, come back. That went on for 13 years.
What were you doing in between that?
Gigging locally, a lot of session work, so recording backgrounds for people's albums and things like that. And then eventually started gigging with other artists. I had a small gig with Julio Iglesias in the middle of that, and some other artists. Yeah.
You're doing this, so talk about the session and the recording scene. That was kind of vibrant happening at that time?
At that time, it was much more happening than it is now.
Yeah.
I did a bunch of sessions here at Criteria. Yeah. It really started because of UM, and people would call for a couple of singers that were good at harmonies and good at blending and could read music. And that's how it started. And then, you do one session and they like what you do, and then someone else says, oh, you used her? Oh, we'll use her. And it escalates into a lot of work. It was great work.
Isn't it amazing how in our industry, when you have the ability of wanting to open yourself up to new ideas and be open to performing and creativity, how it all kind of like connects to one another.
Oh, in this town it does.
Yeah.
Because if you're getting called for the tours, you're probably the singer that's getting called for the sessions, who's getting called for the local gigs. It's kind of very much tied together in this town in Miami.
So you're doing these gigs, you're getting called. I mean, the amount of people that you have sung for, and you know, Streisand, Pink, Bee Gees, Jon Secada, Julio Iglesias, Debbie Gibson. How did all that come about?
The connections that I made so people know what I do, and I get a call from a friend or a cohort or a business partner or something. You know, the Pink stuff came from I was songwriting with another writer named Pete Wallace, who's great. We were just doing a lot of songwriting, doing a lot of demo work, and we were working for a wonderful, bigger, established writer who was working with Pink at that time, and did some demos, did some background work. It was a lot of just who you're working for and who knows, and they call you. And
I mean, it really basically is a small industry that we're in.
Down here it is, yeah. It's very much who you know, and the relationships that you have and the connections that you've made just socially, networking-wise. Yeah.
Talk about the songwriting part of it. I mean, where's that come into?
So I always wrote songs. I would come home from school and put my knapsack down and go to the piano and write little songs and call my dad and say, "Dad, want to hear what I wrote?" And play the little song. And he'd go, "Oh, Bethy, that's so nice." I have to admit, I was probably a little shy in sort of really putting a lot of my writing out there. I was a much more brave singer. I'll sing for you. I'll sing for anybody. But writing-wise, I was like, no, I don't know. Do you want to hear my song? But I ended up doing it quite a bit again with this guy Pete. We were doing quite a bit of writing. Got to place a song that was really nice because I made a nice little check from that.
Yeah,
that was good. And so it's just another thing that I love doing that goes along with it.
What inspires you to write? Where's that come from?
My experiences a lot of times. If I had a crush on a boy, if a boy didn't like me, if a boy did like me, I'd be all excited and I'd go home and write a song about it.
I love it. So the emotional part of how you were emotionally involved with that opened you up?
Totally. I find I've got to be emotionally connected to what I'm writing. I mean, sometimes it's pretend. Like if I'm in a writing session, I go, okay, we've got to write a song for so-and-so. We're shooting to write a song for so-and-so. Sometimes it's a pretend situation, but I have to be emotionally connected to it or else nothing comes out.
But even a pretend situation is much like method acting, where you have to put yourself into that role.
Yeah, right. Maybe that's it, because I have to be connected to it. But it works. It happens, so that's good.
You go by now, you're doing this singing. Where did the educational part come in? Because with a lot of the students that you had some fantastic students that you've coached along the way.
Yeah, it started probably my last year of college or so, just needing some extra money. And so, I could pick up a voice student, have a little extra cash for the telephone bill, for going out. But what I discovered was that I guess I was good at it. And I guess I was good at it. And one of the things that I wanted to do in my voice lessons was give the student the direct road to how to get to where they wanted to go. Like, in other words, when I was in college, we had part of the program at the time at UM was we had to take classical lessons. And I was not a classical singer. I was a pop singer, and we were in a jazz studies program. And so we had to take these classical lessons that just didn't fit into what I did, or I didn't fit into the classical music. And I had amazing teachers. They were awesome. But I had to sort of, in my brain, like translate what they were teaching me in classical music into my pop music.
Yeah.
And it took a long time, and it was a lot of like extra effort to get there. And so when I started teaching my voice lessons, I was like, okay, you sing pop, great. We're just going to go straight into learning stuff in pop, so that the student didn't have to like spend all the time kind of translating from world to world.
Yeah.
And I liked it, and I saw the students get better, and I saw the students' little light bulb would go off. People knew I was a good teacher, I guess, and thought I was a good teacher.
Saying that you were good at it is a gross understatement, because the students that you have produced, and plus the inspiration that you're able to share with these people, that's something which is pretty powerful.
Thank you. Well, I think the reason why it ends up being a really good situation is because I'm a teacher, but I really do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I'm teaching is stuff that I really use every day, that I've really used on stage, that I've really used in the studio. And so, I'm teaching things, but I'm sort of passing on a little bit of this like secret knowledge to them as well.
Being a background singer, were you singing for someone like Jon Secada, or you're doing something like Barry Gibb? What are there different qualities that you need to be aware of when you're backing different vocalists like that?
I guess it's just really being in tune with their style of music. I mean, for Jon, half of it was in Spanish.
Yeah.
So that for me was a brand new world, because I didn't grow up speaking Spanish. I learned it phonetically on the gig at first, and then as time went by, I actually learned the language. So I learned to speak Spanish, which really helped with the singing because I knew what I was singing about finally, instead of just these random words. But it's really got to do with focusing in on what the music is. Like when I'm singing for Barry and doing my best to match his tone and blending with him, he's got such a unique voice that something I have to really listen to and pay attention to match that. So I guess that's what it is, paying attention to their stylistic specialties.
But it's also about being in the moment, being in that moment at that time, and being aware of everything that's going on.
Yeah.
If there are other background singers with you, is there a way that you have to all discuss what's gonna happen? Or is there...
I have been so privileged to work with the most amazing background singers that we just kind of all get on there and do it. We're all pros, so we all kind of know how to listen to one another and join forces for the greater good.
But I think of it like a sectional, like a sax section or a trumpet section.
Yeah.
Is there a sectional leader that usually happens?
Sometimes. I've been lucky enough where a lot of times it's me.
Yeah.
But sometimes it is, or sometimes it's just, 2 or 3 people that know exactly what's going on, and we just jump in.
And it just happens.
And it just happens. Yeah, it happens because we're professionals. I mean, I've definitely been in situations where I was put together with some people that really weren't professionals, and then I'll just take the reins.
Yeah.
This is what we'll do. Hey, do this, do that, and guide them so that it still ends up being a good experience. And that's probably like the teacher part of my personality.
Yeah, sure.
So that we make it work.
Barbra Streisand. I mean, this is a woman that is such a legend at the highest level of artistic expression.
I can die now. It's okay.
In your lifetime to say this is unbelievable. Tell me the story. What was it like?
It's actually it's kind of a funny story, but literally it's one of the highlights of my life to sing backgrounds for her, to have my voice right next to hers. And it's such a great story because we were in the studio and Barry Gibb was the producer, which is how I met him initially, because he was producing the album and I was called in to be one of the singers that was doing backgrounds. Her voice was already there, so we were laying down the backgrounds, listening to her voice, and we finished the take and I start like crying in the studio. I'm like, because it was just like it all hit me that, oh my God, here's my voice next to Barbra Streisand's voice.
Beautiful.
And we went into the control room and Barry looked at me and he said, don't worry, darling. I feel that same way when I realize the artists that I work with. And that was just amazing to me because I was embarrassed and I'm thinking, oh, he's going to think, what is this girl crying in the studio? Because I was just so overwhelmed with emotion, like happy emotion. And he was so great about it. He understood. So it was just a thrill.
Barry seems to be a very, an amazing talent. As a writer, as a singer, as a guitar player, whatever he does is at such a high level. What's it like touring with him on the road, being on the road?
It's wonderful for so many reasons. Number one, he's just the greatest guy. He's humble and sweet and down to earth, a sheer pleasure to work with in every way, shape, and form. And on top of that, the band that works with him is a band of people that I have worked with for years and years. Yeah. We are friends. We are family.
Yeah, what a great sense of musicians that are around here in Miami.
Unbelievable. Really, so when we go out on the road, it's like family going out on the road and traveling with your best friends and the family that you love. There's no better situation. It's just the absolute best.
What motivates you?
I just love to sing so much, and I'm so happy that someone gives me money to do it.
Amazing.
That's the
amazing.
best thing in the world. I would do it for free. So the fact that I can make my living doing it, that just motivates me. I just love to do it. I'd be doing it anyway.
Yeah. When you think about the dream of that little girl singing, Annie's, songs, and just where you are now, what you've accomplished in your lifetime, and what you'll continue to accomplish. I mean, this is you're still in the thick of it, as we say. Are there things you want to accomplish in these next 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, gosh, it never stops. It never stops. I would love to do more writing and place more songs because there's such a great feeling, like hearing someone else sing my words and watch other people singing along with the words that I wrote.
Yeah.
So I'd love to do more writing, and I'd love to do more touring. I'd love to go back out again. I spent the last 3 years touring with Boston, which was just such a thrill.
How great.
And I'd love to go back out again with them, do more of that. So I'm hoping we do.
How great. How do you adapt? I mean, from Boston to Secada to very good. How do you adapt to all that? How do you prepare for it?
I think it's all sort of different parts of my personality. I mean, I love rock music, and so Boston fit into that.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I love the 70s era of all the dance disco music. I love that. And preparing wise, it's always different. I mean, for Boston, there was a lot of preparing. I play guitar and keyboards on that gig, and I had to do quite a bit of practicing.
Yeah.
It never stops. Like the life of a musician, some people think, you get there and you're done and you've made it. I got the call for the gig and I spent hours and hours in my studio, like practicing. I hadn't practiced that much since college.
Fantastic.
We're always growing.
Well, you're growing because you're choosing to grow. This is a conscious effort that you're making.
Yeah.
And how was it learning piano and guitar? Where'd that come from? Where'd you learn that?
I always played a little bit of piano. My mom got me lessons when I was really young, and I can remember her saying, if you don't practice, I'm not going to get you these lessons anymore, because I wasn't practicing all over there. So I always played, and then in college, there were courses and whatnot as part of the curriculum to play more. But guitar was is still my nemesis, and I just have to sit in a room for hours and practice really slowly and do it.
What are you listening to now? Is there any music that you're listening to now that's...
Gosh, I listen to a lot of different stuff, like stylistically, a lot of different stuff. I've always loved to listen to urban R&B artists. For a while they called it neo-soul. That's probably like my favorite stuff to listen to for pleasure. And now there's a lot of I guess what they're calling alternative rock. It's not played on the pop stations.
Right.
But I just love that stuff because it's different and it's got guitars. Finally, music's got guitars again.
Yeah.
And so I just listen to a lot of different stuff.
But you're a rocker down deep inside.
I'm a rocker down, yeah. I remember at UM, I was like the rock chick. You were like, ooh, that's the rock girl.
We have this audience of students and dedicated musicians watching these interviews from all around the world, from over 40 countries. And what's amazing about it is that they look at this, they get inspired by this, but when they see someone like yourself and they start to do the research and start to follow your career and what you're doing, what advice would you give them? In closing, Beth, what would you say to this next generation that would give them some of the guidance that you have gone through in your experience that you can give to them?
Yeah, you have to be really, really persistent in this career. You have to really keep pushing and really keep going. There's a lot of other people doing it, and they'll beat you in the race if you don't really run fast enough.
Yeah.
Really be persistent in your career. I mean, put yourself out there as much as you can. We always joke, in my family, my little brother, he always says he's relentless towards the goal. You have to be relentless towards the goal, because if not, someone else will knock you down and take your place.
If there's ever been a positive twist on the word relentless, you have done that. You are relentless in your talent, you're relentless in how you learn, you're relentless in how you teach and inspire others. You're doing it all, Beth, and for that, we thank you so much. You've been fantastic.
Thank you so much, Dom. I appreciate it so much.
Excellent,
Thank you.
excellent. Dom Famularo here, the Sessions panel. This is so exciting. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Click the subscribe button to be a part of what we're doing. The views help us tremendously. All of your comments, we read them and react to them. This is incredible. The support you're giving us is great. The Sessions panel. We'll see you real soon.